Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Counter Sport Podcast. This is a St. Patrick's Day special that I, being the only Irish man on the podcast, demanded to have. And I finally got in my way. So, we are doing a St. Patrick's Day podcast, which will be Irish focused. And I am delighted to say I am joined by the first ever guest on the Counter Sport podcast. He runs a very popular Twitter page, Republic of Ireland Tracker. Have you seen it? He's also on the Lansdowne Roar podcast, but none of that can compare to being the first ever guest on the Counter Sport podcast. Conor McEvoy, how are we?
I'm great, Kev. How are you doing? I'm ready for
I'm
a big week of football, but I don't know if you are as well, or you're nervous wreck like a lot of people.
Yeah, both me and Conor will be heading to Plovdiv in Bulgaria next week for the glamour tide that is the UEFA Nations League relegation playoff B/C. So while a lot of countries will be focused on qualifying for the 2026 World Cup, everyone knows where the real talent is, and that is in the UEFA Nations League. So we may or may not do some. I'm talking with Darren about doing some maybe like reporting from the ground, but we'll see when we get down there. Anyway, Connor, what we're going to do today is because it's St. Patrick's Day and because we're celebrating Irish football in this episode, Connor, who has a wealth of knowledge about Irish football and follows it with some insane detail, is going to give us his top five Irish prospects. And who knows, the term golden generation may even may be thrown around at some points today. But Connor, are you excited about your exciting players that you're going to talk to us about today?
Uh, I hope so. I'd like to think so. If I'm not, I'll be a bit worried, but hopefully you're excited as well because I know you've a big passion for it as well. So I'm sure you might disagree with a few, or you might have
Oh
a
yeah.
bias depending on what club they play for.
Oh, okay. So right, we're already getting off on a bad foot. I assume there's no Shamrock Rovers players in this list. So we might have to cut it short.
No, but listen,
But but here we go. So Connor, your first of your top five most exciting players. Who do we have?
the first lad who I think is going to be a superstar is Mason Melia. I think it's the obvious one. I think it's the obvious one.
Yes.
He's eye-catching name. He's been the best young player I've seen in the League of Ireland in a long, long time. I know this season he's started a couple of games so far, but he's only back from a stress fracture in his back that ruled him out kind of for the whole of pre-season. So he's kind of catching his fitness up whilst he's playing. Um, like you seen last season, Kev, how good he was in the League of Ireland. He was like, I've never seen a more mature, young, basically 16-year-old playing every
Mm.
single week in the league. Like, I know Ian Keane has kind of been the standout name in the League of Ireland this season, but like he was starting every single week over him last year, particularly in that European run, playing against some top European opposition. And he was making it look easy. His hold up play, his link up play, his ability to spin defenders, and his football IQ for the age is something that I don't think I've ever seen before in a League of Ireland player. I'd probably argue he's the best young League of Ireland player we've ever seen because, like, we've seen Ferguson in the League of Ireland, we've seen Michael Noonan now, but I think what Melia was doing last season, I think he'll continue to push on this year. Obviously, he's going to Spurs in January, which is a huge thing, and he's meant to be going straight into the first thing, team, which shows how highly they must think of it. Obviously, he's not going to start playing straight away for them, but if he's training every day with them and see how that goes until the summer, but. Yeah, I think Mason Melia is a potential superstar, and I think we're blessed with striker options for the future. And I think he could be the cream of the crop.
Yeah, Mason Melia, only 17 years of age, plays up front for Pats, and made headlines recently. As you mentioned, Connor, he's moving to Spurs, which he'll join in 2026 because of Brexit rules. And he can only join when he's 18. But he became the first ever player from the League of Ireland to go for over a million euros or pounds sterling. I think what the fee what was the fee in the end? Was it
It's one point,
1.5?
yeah, it's like
Was it?
£1.5. I know it's 1.96 euro, but I think that can
Yeah,
change on currency the way it is. But
yeah.
yeah, it's like
There's incentives. So he's the most expensive ever export from the League of Ireland. and like I said, joining in 2026. And what do you think of this move to Spurs? I mean, like you said, he's going to be training with the first team straight away. Ange has sort of shown that he's willing to trust young people. Do you think this was the right move for him?
I think if he was going to go to any Premier League big clubs as such, I think Spurs probably is the right move. Like it's the big thing is just staying in a first team environment. You don't want to go somewhere that go to a Man City as such and be in the 21s, or go to Liverpool be in the 21s. Like obviously he probably will end up playing games for 21s, but as long as I think he's in that first team environment every day and he's developing amongst Premier League players, and as good as he is, being in that Tottenham Hotspur environment, be at their training ground with the best facilities in the world, and we've all seen how good their facilities are. That he will naturally just become a better footballer. I know you think like how much better can this lad get, but like when you get in that sort of environment, things just go to another level. And you always want like he would. I think he'd be fit to go into a championship side straight away and start playing for them.
Mm,
But I don't think Spurs might think that's the right
mm.
trajectory from. Maybe it's just train every day with Spurs, go on loan in the summer, or get, train every day, develop, and then a big preseason next year because obviously they've Solanke plays up front. I know
Yeah.
Mateus Tell played there last week, and I think people are slagging him about Troy Parrott being better in the Europa League game. But no, I think it's a good move for Mason. I think it's too early to say yet because there's a lot of moves people who say are good, and I'm glad he hasn't gone out because I know a lot of Italians clubs put in big money for him. I'm
Yes.
glad he's not gone to Italy because it's a death trap for young footballers. So I'm glad he stayed clear of Italy. He seems to have like his agent is his uncle, which is
Mm.
always good to have that tied in. That a family won't just look out for the pockets; they're looking out for
Yeah.
what is the best long term uh, progression for Mason. So I would trust them that this has been a well thought out plan, and because there's so many clubs after him, Spurs is the right one.
Perfect. So yeah, Mason Melia is your first. Can I get your second, please?
The second is probably the player I'm most excited about in Irish football. Jade Numa, who plays for
Oh,
Benfica in Portugal.
Jade
Uh,
Numa. Okay. I was
uh,
thinking, I was trying to guess, and I was like, I was wondering if you'd go down this route. Tell us a bit more about Jade Numa.
but Jade Numa first really came on the scene. I think he was under 15s with Ireland, and he was this lad that was about 6 foot at 14, 15, compared to all everyone else's midgets. And you'd always think, oh, he's just bigger and he's stronger and he's faster. But then you look at his brother, Palace Franco, which shows that kind of it's not just a early blooming thing, that it's in the genetics to stay stronger and faster than everyone else. But and he kind of was scoring rockets then. And then the Victory Shield 2 years ago, his performance for Ireland as a 15-year-old was one of the best performances in terms of tournament I've ever seen from a young lad. He was head and shoulders over the rest of the oppositions. It was. I remember the first game against Scotland is one of the best performances I'd argue from an Ireland underage player I've ever seen. He just picked up the ball, just ran past everyone every 2 minutes, and it was just a thing of just give Jaden the ball and let him see what happens. Kind of an old school mentality because you don't really see it
Yeah.
anymore with young players of just give him the ball and he'll just make something happen.
Like
Um,
Farrett's Kelly the other night for
yeah,
PSG.
basically, yeah, that's what. He's not even that side of player. He's more like I see a lot of people compare him to Rafael Leao when he picks up the ball and drives with that
Right.
the way because he's just size wise he's massive. Like I remember seeing him in
Yeah.
Dublin Airport. I remember seeing him in Dublin Airport once with Cork City were playing. I think they were going out. Funny enough, they were going out to play Benfica in friendlies, and
Right.
obviously Benfica wanted him from playing against him after that. But sure, he was twice the size of everyone on his own team, and then the thing naturally came out, and he was just doing better than the rest of his lads of the age. Was called up to Ireland under 17s last year, and the age group up was doing well for them. Then last season, obviously Cork were in the first division, so it gave a chance for young lads really to come in. But no one was expecting the 15-year-old lad to come in and be playing every week. And I think he scored 2 goals, 2 assists,
Yeah.
and you know how many appearances he played before going to Benfica. And I know he picked up a knee injury before he went to Benfica. And like he was making it look easy. Like I know he still is young and he can still be raw in aspects, but like the fact is there was moments he was bullying grown men playing football and he'd pick up the ball, drive past them, glide past them. Obviously there's a big difference in the first division and if he was in the Premier Division. But what
Mm.
I seen from a 15-year-old lad coming into that environment was something I don't think I've ever seen from an Irish lad. Obviously, if Mason is 16 in the Premier Division, he's 15, he's a year younger. He a lot of the only question marks over him was really how's he going to adapt to men's football because of how easy he really found it. But gone to another level since then. Gone to Benfica. Obviously, he had that knee injury when he first joined, so it kind of was a bit of like just rehab for a while, and then now he's with Benfica's. I think his under 19s they go by. I think he's doing very well at the moment. I think he scored the last 2-3 games in a row. He seems to be a fan favorite already. Benfica is one of them. You know, when you have your star boys at your club, he's one of them. And
Yeah.
he made his Europa or UEFA Youth League debut a couple of weeks ago in the knockout tie. I know he was the only player from his age group that was called up to the side, which is always a very good sign that
Yeah.
you're the only one from your age bracket. So I must think he's the pick of the crop at that age. And to go to Benfica of all clubs is like, where else would you want to go and develop your football? Like they just produce
Yeah.
player after player, and even when you look at a B team aspect, I'd imagine he'll be in the B team next season, which would be great because they play in the second tier of Portugal, so he'll be playing men's football week in week out. And I think it won't be long until he makes his first team debut after that, because I think he is I think he's the real deal, and I think he's going to be one that we're going to have in Irish football. I think we've never really had a player like this as such, because when do we ever have flying wingers that are pick up the ball, run past everyone, and have that? Like I know Damien Duff is probably the last.
Yeah, I was
one
going to say
that.
Duffer's probably the last one, and that's
but
nearly
he's
30
more,
years ago.
yeah, and like I think Jaden Newman's like an inverted winger as such. I know football changed. Duff could play on the left. Well, Jaden plays on the left as a right footer, like so. It's kind of thing we don't really have coming. Like obviously we've Rocco Vata coming into the first team now, but
he's more of a number 10/winger, isn't he?
He's more of a creative style winger, and Jaden Newman's his power will just go at you all day. So it's he's a player I'm very excited about. I don't want to say too much as of yet, because I don't want.
Yeah, he is only 16. He is only 16. But I think you're right. I think being at a place like Benfica, and I think this is where we sort of see one of the benefits of the Brexit rules of not being able to go to the UK when you're under 18, that you get this sort of continental experience. And like you said, I mean, the Benfica academy just seems to churn them out, don't they?
Yeah, it seems to be best. And like there's the benefit of Brexit. I know there's been some dodgy moves to Italy and stuff for lads, but when you look at, but like I said, Benfica were never even looking in the Irish market before Brexit, because they all just thought lads would just go straight to England, which is a good way that they're now starting to come in, and we'll see more and more lads probably head out Portugal direction, which would be good. But yeah, it's probably the perfect club, I would say, for Jaden Newman's development, and any little thing that they need to work on, I'm sure they'll be working on with him and having him ready to promote to the first team. And they're the type of club that what you need, their structure is based on bringing through young lads and making their profit off young lads coming through. So when he's ready, I've no doubt that they'll bring him straight into the first team, because I think he will be ready, and I think he'll be ready sooner rather than later. But I don't want to get hopes up too high yet, because I have high hope from him, but I don't want to get too much pressure on him. But I think him being in Benfica, actually, one thing else helps keep the limelight away from, because if he was doing that at, say, I don't know, say Spurs, like Troy Power was back in the day, or Man United or Liverpool, all the eyes are on him, all the English media would be on him, and it's as good as it is to get, everyone loves a bit of praise, you don't want it to go overboard in a sense.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, his brother Franco is at Palace, and I don't think he's made a first team appearance, but he's been on the bench for a few games. But so we've had Mason Melia, we've had Jade Numa. Who do we have next?
Just off another winger, another of that bracket, who I think could be very. It's funny enough just have so much. For once, Kev, we have so many wingers coming through. I could go.
What do you mean? We don't have goalkeepers and right backs in this list, Connor?
No, we need left backs. That's what we need, left backs. But no, it's just something about Ireland and wingers at the moment. It used to be centre backs. It still is centre backs. It continues to be centre backs. But there's so many winger talents coming through, and I think next one will be Ike Arazi, one of your own, the Shamrock Rovers academy graduate.
I was waiting. I was wondering when the first Rovers player will be in.
Yeah. Well, I'd say not Rovers anymore. He's gone. He's no longer going to use.
He's a Rovers product.
Yeah. I don't know. Can you say that when they leave at 16? Could they say that?
Yes, of course. We're claiming him. Of course, Rovers are claiming him. Anyway, I go around. Tell us why he's so special.
I think it's just because he played for Shamrock Rovers. No,
yes. There we go.
I don't know if you remember a couple of years ago, Kev, in Ireland. the under 17s played in the Euros. They got to the
Yes,
quarter final. Funny enough, the loss against Spain, which had Lamine Yamal and Pau
Lamine Yamal. Yeah.
Cubarsí. So which is a mad turnaround of events, and you think that we got to see him before everyone else did. But uh, no, he was playing the age group up in that tournament as a 16-year-old, as was Melia, and I think he was really just one of the standout players of the whole tournament.
Mm.
He was just lightning. He's just like Jade Numa, that sort of left left winger, right footed left winger. He cuts inside, makes things happen. Pace, power, quick feet. I know he actually, in terms of comparisons, his actually comparison is Rafael Leao as well compared to. I know our teammates of his from Ireland underage stuff have said that they
Leo.
would all say he's like Leao from the way he plays. And I know from I've seen like Killian Phillips train with him in the summer and saying that he's an absolute joke, and lads
Mm.
saying that this kid's unbelievable, outrageous. Like when they play with him, like playing with lads a good few years older than him. He's had a couple of injuries since going to Rems because I don't know what they're like for in terms of keeping hold of players' bodies, but he's had a couple few injuries since going there. He made his first team debut in January, no, sorry, December in the Cup, and then he made his Ligue 1 debut in January against Lyon. So,
Mm.
like, he's only 17. He's won. Rems are a club, literally, they're like Benfica. Their whole profit is made off academy lads, and they pride themselves in bringing in the best young talent from either around the world, around Europe, and I think France is quite a difficult country for young lads to go to just because of the language and sometimes the way the people can be in France. But I think he's an absolutely superb player, and you can put him on that list with Jade Newman in terms of high potential wingers that I think we can all be excited about. And I think for your aspect, it's great that he's come from a Shamrock Rovers point of view. I think he's one. I made a bold prediction on YouTube of 5 Irish players I think will make their first team debut in 2025, and I may have put him on it as a bold shout because I think he will.
Is this
Well,
first team for the
for
senior
Ireland,
Ireland?
I think
Okay.
he will have a. I think he'll have a breakout moment before the end of the season with Rems in terms of becoming a regular. I know they're in a relegation battle, which is
Yeah.
never good for a young lad coming through. But if they can get out of that, or they can either just get relegated, it might help him even get minutes.
I
But
was going to say, would getting relegated into League Two maybe help him? He might
yeah,
get
it
even
it
more
would.
opportunities.
Because I know because he turns 18 next
Hmm.
summer, and I know if he doesn't want to stay there, I know there's all English clubs are after him like that
Okay.
would if they take him in the morning if they got the chance to. But if he can get first team football in France, which is people have some sort of narrative that the French league isn't good, which is
No.
it's complete lies. Like it's one of the best leagues in Europe. The talent they produce out of France is absolutely outrageous. It just produces player after player, and an academy like Reims is well known and I think I think that he will break into first team football, whether it's at Reims or somewhere else before the end of 2025. And I think or earlier, sooner rather than later, hopefully that he could come in during the World Cup qualifiers at some stage because I think he is a unique talent in that sense. And like we do talk about the lack of wingers we have. We do have a lot of wingers currently, like coming through. Not as many in the senior team. We have what Fessy, we have Rocco
Hmm.
Vata, Mikey Johnson,
Gio.
but yeah, Chio. But no one's really took the bull by the horns on the left side. Mikey Johnson, yeah, he's a good player, but hasn't really stood out in an Ireland jersey
Yeah,
as of
we've
yet.
played Sammy Schmodox there for the
Yeah,
last
and
few games.
we've been playing
Who's
a
who?
4-4-2. Yeah,
Yeah, who's a
uh,
centre forward?
yeah. So like, there's an opening there for whoever can really become a superstar. And the thing is, if a player becomes a superstar for Ireland, the whole team will be built around him. Like we see with Ferguson. I know not the last couple of months haven't went well, but if say IK becomes a star in making, I think you'd start to see the squad be built around him in that sense. So no, I don't want to say too much as yet because I don't like getting lads hopes up as of yet. But I'm very excited for IK Razi, and it's a good one for you as a Shamrock Rovers fan that
Oh yeah.
if he ends up doing well at Stade Rem, he'll be sold for a lot of money, which Shamrock Rovers will make a huge chunk of.
Yeah, those sell-on clauses are a lot of what a League of Ireland clubs make their money on. I'm Bows are still hoping for that 50 million transfer for Evan Ferguson so they can put it towards daily event. So Mason Melia, Jade Numa, IK Orazi, who's next?
The next one is someone who's the only one that's not born in Ireland on this list,
Oh,
Aaron Ochoa Maloney, who is at
oh yeah,
Malaga, superb
great name first
technician.
of all. Great
Isn't
name.
it? Yes, class. Like it's one that we have a lot of good names in Irish football. We have
We
him,
do.
John Joe
I
Patrick
still
Finn. I
don't think
think.
Anselmo Garcia McNulty will be bet at the
No, I
moment.
don't. No, that's like nutty at the end of it. Just tease off. It was Anselmo Garcia, but when you just
Nah,
have McNulty on it, just sexes it up, doesn't it?
he's not on this
But
list, whereas
there's a lot
Aaron
of good names.
Ochoa Maloney is. Go on, tell us about him.
Yes. Um. So I think like he's not that well known, and I want to get an Irish football community just for the context of we haven't seen really the blossom of him in an Irish jersey. He's played all the levels up to under 19s now. At 15, 16, 17s, I think he kind of struggled with the adaptation to the Irish way of playing football. And not it's not a bad way. It's just different from Spain and a lot more physical, more power. Lads who are physically dominant and powerful would get a chance over him, and he kind of spent a lot of time on the bench. And but over the last year and a half, he's broken to Malaga's first team, which is sad to see that they were in the third tier of Spanish
Mm,
football, but they got promoted through the playoff system that they have there, and I think it's a relegation promotion thing like
yeah,
we have in Ireland. And he was their playoff final went to extra time, and he was one of the difference makers. He played a key role in the winning goal, which is he was only 16 at the time.
mm,
They're now up to the second tier of in Spain, obviously playing every week, starts most weeks, doing very well. Like for the fact that he's 17 and the second tier of Spain is a very,
yeah,
very high standard. And he's in that Malaga, he's at like Malaga are a massive club. It's just that they're at a level that they probably shouldn't be at. Hopefully, over the
yeah,
next couple of years, they get back up. And it's his club that he's boyhood club. He's been at there basically his whole life. He'll hopefully get up to the La Liga over the next couple of years with them, or I wouldn't be surprised if someone a bigger club in terms of current positions would come in from because if you're at that age playing that well, you're going to have interest. And then I think the blossom moment from really an Irish race of war Kev was when we were having the torture of playing England in November, which was one of the worst days of my life.
we were both that. Yes.
Yes, so one of the worst days of my life. First 45 minutes was brilliant, but after that, well, most weeks, same way.
Were you not in the press box getting all the
I
free
was.
meals and everything?
I was great. It was great. I'm telling you, it was great before the game. Half time gave us the desserts. It's brilliant. And nil, we were thinking, jeez, we're doing well here. Festi's tearing these boys apart. And then Liam Scales gets a red card and it falls apart. But
Hey, listen,
no,
look, I don't remember what happened after halftime, so
no, it doesn't count. Once you go down 10 men, it just counts as a friendly, in my opinion. So it's
yeah,
finished 0-0. But I think when you look at Ochoa Maloney, that day, that morning, Ireland under 19s were playing in qualifiers. And I think he scored the goal of the year in terms of Ireland underage players. He was like they were playing in, if I'm right, don't quote me on this. I think it was Moldova. I mean,
mm,
almost certain they were playing in Moldova. The pitches weren't great. The standard pitches, like you think a player like him would struggle on a pitch like that, where it's meant to be technically he's a technically gifted footballer, wants to play lovely football, and Stan Ashby from Hull switched the ball out for him, took a lovely touch on the outside of his foot, cut inside, stuck in the top bins. Like he's like I know he cut in. Like, don't worry, he's not a winger. Although he can play on the wing, but he's another. Like, he's playing centre mid as a number 10. Number 10 really is his best position, and I think that was his crowning moment in an Irish football jersey so far. That it kind of was like to the casuals as such. I would say Kev that he knows
yeah,
himself as a top prospect for Ireland. Like it's not often we have a lad playing in Spain doing so well. I think I think he's one that once we'll see September come and the under 19s is finished, he'd be a cert to be in the under 21s because if you're playing at that level as a young 17-year-old, I'm not sure, but I think he'll be 18 by September comes around. He'll be right in the thick of it for the under 21s. And like I
yeah.
think Ike Raz, he'll be the same if he's not in the senior squad. Oh, I hope he is, but he'll be in the 21s
That's
with
your
him.
bold prediction.
Yeah, so I think he's one that we need to keep watching because he's playing at such a high level and he kind of gets bypassed a bit because when you're playing in Spain, Irish people can kind of just pass over him, even though it's a top league, can
Yeah,
kind of just pass over. Oh, so he's only doing that in Spain, like, or he's only doing it in the second tier, but it's still a very high standard. And the fact is, he's only 17 and he's doing brilliantly well. And I can't wait to see it develop. And he's a type of footballer we don't really have in Ireland that technically small, but technically brilliant and has all the aspects to be a top player.
so are you basically telling me we've half Spanish Wes Hoolahan on the way?
Basically, a right-footed West Hoolahan.
Hey, look, that's news to me. That look, I'll take that all day.
You just want
Perfect.
that bit of Spanish
So
flair, don't you?
Oh, love. And again, not only
Yeah,
does he have wonderful footballing ability, like you've just outlined, he's playing at a decent level in this Segunda,
yeah.
but he also still has the best name in Irish football, Aaron Ochoa Maloney. So one more left. Is it going to be another silky attacking player? I have a feeling it might be.
Um, I'm sorry to tell you, but it is Kev.
I
It is.
how could I get? How did I
It's
know?
it's just I just you just love attackers, don't we? We just love attackers. It's not like we've produced some great attackers over the years, but we've gone through a dry spell over the last
We
God,
have gone through a real dry spell.
last since Robbie Keane's retired. Like we've been relying on Didsey to carry us for a couple of years. Like that's
Yeah.
the peak of my life over the last couple of years. But no, funny enough, it sounds bad, but it's another winger I've gone for.
Oh my
Trent Cone
God.
Dardy. I think
Yes, I would. Yeah, Darren, and James, who are on this pod, will be happy because they're Liverpool fans.
yeah, we won't mind him with Liverpool. Let's go away with your Liverpool. We don't want any Liverpool talk in this. Ireland only, but no,
So
like
Trent Cone Doherty, tell us about him.
or I'm sure the English will have a change to Doherty quite soon anyway. But no, I think for everyone that listens to podcasts, I'm sure they're probably aware of him because I'd imagine there's a huge Liverpool contingent, and
Mm,
I think he made his debut against Plymouth at the FA Cup, which was a huge moment to see, and
mm,
I think it was all unexpected because he made the debut or he was on the bench that day. Everyone probably thought Rio and Gamala would have been the winger to come off the bench if any of the young lads were coming on, and uh, Liverpool were what 1-0 down at the stage. Probably you're
yeah,
like, as soon as that goal went in, I was like, oh shit,
he's not
they're
getting
not
a
going to
run.
bring. He's not going to
Yeah,
come on. They're going to bring on experienced heads. They're going to try and get back in the game. And then Arne Slot brought him on, which I thought, just for as much as I don't like Liverpool, fair play to Arne Slot and he came on that day, and I thought he done very well. He was bright. He was on the ball. He was trying to take man on. And like usually when a young lad comes on, all they want to do is pick up the ball and pass it sideways and not take any risks. And he was looking to make things happen. And he's shown something bravery that young lads don't really show when they come into a first team environment, which is a huge step. And I've seen that he's been recently promoted to the regular training with the first team most
mm,
days with Liverpool, which is a huge sign. Like I've watched a lot of Liverpool's games in the Europa Youth League this season, and he's been by far the standout on the pitch for them. His finishing is excellent. Like the one thing he's always lacked is that little bit of technical ability in front of goal, but which he's worked
mm,
on. You can tell he worked on a lot over the last since signing for Liverpool at 16, and
yeah.
it's gone. He's very consistent in front of goal now. It still is obviously an area that you can improve on, but he is very consistent in front of goal. The kind of old school in that sense that he usually plays on the right hand side, which we don't really see anymore for a right-footed winger, and he's pace, power. Despite being small, he's strong at his stature. He knows how to use his body very well, and I think when you say his pace, and like pace is an understatement with him, he's absolutely rapid. Like he's just
Yeah.
lightning. You just get the ball, kick it, and run, and he's flying past lads, and he has that wee Sterling to that old. I don't want to say Sterling anymore because God, that's a bad comparison. But back in
When
the day,
Sterling was good.
yeah, when his Sterling was good, he has that like short run, but just so
Yeah.
quick, and like obviously you can see in terms of aspects of finishing in front of goals, sometimes it can be raw, and then sometimes it's absolutely superb. So that's probably the only aspect I say he needs to work on before hopefully get it. Because I know for a fact he'll be with the Liverpool first team in pre-season, which will
Yeah.
be a huge step. He'll be with the Ireland under 19s now next week in qualifiers, which that squad I think is outrageous. I know Mason Bean is
Were you surprised he wasn't called for the 21s?
um no, I think it was more because I asked Crawford Jessa about why he's Mealy in it because we all want Mealy to be in the 19s because the 21s are playing friendlies and the 19s have qualifiers. So you
Playing
think you'd want
qualifiers, yeah.
yeah, you want your best striker, and he said because he was called up in November, I consider him a 21s player now and
Okay.
21s. So I think when he picks him up, you can't under
Mm,
19s can't do anything about it. So unfortunately, Mealy is with the 21s, but because Conor Dardy and Arazi like them or Joe Maloney haven't been in 21s before, they're still considered 19s, and like the reality is, it's going to be probably Arazi on one wing, Conan Doherty on the other wing, with Cahill O'Sullivan coming off the bench. I know he's not Liam, but he's another superb player, and Joe
mm,
Maloney probably playing in behind, and like that's absolutely outrageous for
yeah.
underage international football. Like, so no, it's very exciting. It's a pity that Mealy will be number 9 for them, but I know Michael
Yeah.
Noonan has been called up for them to play up front, which is is
And
not a
some would
bad
argue,
replacement, is it?
some would argue Michael Noonan is a better footballer than Mason Mealy. Somewhat,
Yeah,
somewhat, but
yeah. So only some,
who's
only
to
from a
say?
certain. He's another that they look at as whatever a high potential player, whatever they
Mm,
call him these days in the FAI. But he, I know for Liverpool fans' point of view, Liverpool fans seem to love him. The coaches at Liverpool seem to love him. He seems to have got because I think at the start of the season, I don't know whether he was thought as one of the potential breakout players to the first team, but
yeah,
obviously he's impressed so much over the last 6 months or so that he's got himself in that picture that they're having a regular in first team training. I'd imagine he'll be with the first team with preseason and then alone probably next season. Like what Ben Doak, who's I know
yeah,
he's very highly thought of, has done this year, and it'd be interesting now to see where they'd put him on loan because he's quite small in stature. Like he's very small. I think he's what 5'7", 5'8".
yeah.
So like, would a championship move be the right move? But as people like say about toughing lads up, I don't know. I'm not too fan of that. Like, but no, he's a brilliant young player and he's one of many. So I know we went through five in this, but I could go through 20, 30 names
Well,
off the
look,
top of my head. And then
this podcast could be 10 hours long with you just naming young footballers. Let's be
yeah, I
realistic
know
here.
I'll end up getting arrested or something if I went on for 10 hours.
And who knows with Conor Doherty as well. You may even see him if Liverpool have the Premier League title wrapped up. He may even get some first team minutes towards the end
Yeah,
of
that's
the
true. Yeah,
season
that's very true.
in
Yeah.
the Premier League. But Connor, I think we will leave it there. So Mason Melia, Jade Numa, Ike Orazi, Aaron Ochoa Maloney, and Trent Conor Doherty are your top five Irish prospects to look out for in the coming years. So make a note of those names. And just before I let you go, Connor, can I have your prediction for Ireland, Bulgaria versus Ireland next Thursday in
Um,
Plovdiv?
first first leg we'll do them. We'll do them 2-0. Second leg it'll be 4-0. They're not. It's not going to be easy, but we'll get an early enough goal in first leg, and then we'll get a late one because they'll try and push for the equaliser, but like they're not going to break us down. So even though they're quite good defensively, but I think once they're 2-0 down after the first leg, their heads will be we're not going to win next week. So and then Ireland, Rocco Vata will get a hat trick on debut or on his first start in the FIFA,
Oh
and
my
then
God.
we can all be happy and prepare for the World Cup qualifiers. Like we're going to win them.
Oh my God. The confidence, I can feel it through this Zoom call. I'm not as confident, but anyway, we'll leave it there. You can find Connor at the Lansdowne Roar Podcast, which they do every week. And you'll find him literally every day on Twitter at the Republic of Ireland Tracker account. Connor, thank you so much for joining us here today for the St. Patrick's Day special. We really appreciate it. And for everyone watching, for everyone listening, Slán agus bannacht agus lá éile páric do gachtainna seo. We'll talk to you soon.